Hey guys, how's it going? I changed my mic setup. I'm using my headphones right now so that you guys can see. That's don't know if you can hear that vibration. That's my CPU fan, or the case fan. Let's just set up the date and time, because yeah, the CMOS battery is dead. I'm gonna have to do this every single time I turn it on in the morning. It's afternoon for me right now, but it's fine. Today is 25th, I think. If I can check it. Yeah, today's 25th. 2021, time is 14:45. Why do they have... I'm just gonna turn all the stuff that I don't need on this. Boost this thing to 667. Yeah, it's DDR3, but this motherboard is stupid slow. I've got a new MSI motherboard waiting here, but unable to get the CPU right now because of the lockdown. I'm hoping to get a i5 4460 or 4590. It's boosted up to 35. This should boot up. Overclocked. I do have the motherboard in the cabinet down below me, and yeah, waiting for the CPU. And it's an AMD Sempron 145. I have done as much as I can to get this thing running in dual core mode a few days back. It works, but it's erratic as heck. So yeah, I'm either searching for an i5 4460 or 4590 fourth gen LGA 1150 socket CPU. This lockdown isn't helping. So, well, I'll probably cut at it too once it's on. Well, we're back and it's on. It's still loading. This is what happens when you install Windows 10 on a single core CPU with 4 GB of DDR3 RAM. Let's hit up CPU Z and see what our clock speed is. I'm guessing around 3.2, maybe 3.2 gigahertz, because stock is single core 2.8. Well, it froze again. There we go. Yeah, this keeps freezing every 2 minutes, I guess. I benchmarked this thing a few days back. That one was the fan settings. Yeah. Oh, enlisted, get out of my face. I do not want that thing lagging again. I need to really turn startup things off. Instead of just clicking exit on everything. So I'm just gonna zoom in here. So it's a 40-watt CPU and it's a 45 nm die. Yikes! Core voltage is 1.3 volts. So yeah, we're boosted almost 3.28 mega, 3.28 gigahertz. Yeah. Let's head over to memory. DDR3 dual channel. At least it's dual channel, isn't it? Slow, but dual channel at least. Yeah. If I do a stress test on the CPU, don't know if you can read that. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, 120. That's the most this thing can do. If I overclock it a bit more, it reaches around 125, I guess. And in the dual core mode, it hits around 200. That's about it. Yeah, this isn't the fastest thing there is. Sempron 145 is not great. I mean, I do have Just Cause 4 race room and stuff, but most of that works in dual core, not in the single core mode. So I am going to spend some time and see what I can do to get it running in dual core. Might have to reset CMOS quite a few times. So I shall be back once that is done. Well, this is one thing you should never, ever do in a PC. I boosted this thing a bit too much on the single core, on 270 on the reference clock. And this happened. Well, that isn't a good sign, is it? Reboot again. Yeah, that was the first time it actually booted at reference clock 270, so it would have been up at, I don't know, 3.9 gigahertz, almost 4 gigahertz up. or maybe even more. Let's say 4.1, 4.2 maybe. Yeah, reference clock 270 is not good for a 2.8 GHz CPU, man. Whew. Well, this is what I've been doing the entire time now, so I'm gonna be back once it's running in dual core. Well, this is just a few minutes later. No, CPU-Z, I do not want an update. Yeah, it's fine. 3.5 GHz on a single core. It's fine. Now to reboot the thing and hope it runs in dual core. That's what I've been doing for the past hour or so, I guess. This computer is boring. Well, after half an hour of messing around, I finally got this thing to run at its dual core mode. As you can see down there, it says AMD engineering sample. I'm just gonna get this down to 225, let's say. So we can finally access frequency control, which normally doesn't show up. So let's get that thing to CPU frequency to 2.5 GHz and base clock to 2 and 7 exit and hope it posts, because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I just saw the light on my keyboard flash, and there we go. AMD engineering sample running at 2 GHz. Now to wait until it boots. Ah crap, I didn't change the other setting, didn't I? Well, talk to you guys once it boots, and we'll see what we can do from there. And we have booted up into the desktop. First things first, let's open up Beamng.Drive. So we can boost the CPU as much as it can go. I've experimented around before, and it gets up to 3.8 GHz without crashing or blue screening, but 3.9 unstable. 4 GHz is not doable at all. Yeah, and the thing that happens is when you do overclock or get it into its dual core running mode, the temperature, the CPU temps, they just go haywire. So it's most of the times it usually says 0 Celsius. The other times it usually says 178 or 180, which is scary to say the least. Although it doesn't actually get that hot. It takes a second to respond because Windows 10 and doesn't usually go well with dual cores. Windows 8 would have been fine. Windows 7 would have been even better for this thing, to be honest, but didn't have the installations back then. But Windows 10 is fine for now, and it'll probably run better once I get the Intel CPU later. Beamng.Drive is being initialized. Please wait. Let's also open CPU ID along with that, so we can see some more stuff. So, as it says right there, AMD engineering sample. CPU-Z says that it's based off of an AMD Opteron, as you can see here. Yeah, CPU-Z says it's an AMD Opteron, my guy, but it might be, it might not be. Not exactly sure. It doesn't say anything on the brand ID. Technology is obviously the same. The voltage increases to 1.5 volts from the previous 1.3 volts the single core was running on. So at the moment we are at 2.8 gigahertz. That is normal. We'll just zoom out a tad bit, hoping you guys can still see it. Let's get CPU-Z into the frame. So the core speed right now is 2.8 gigahertz, while the bus speed is multiplied as 12.5 times. So we can boost that up to around 16. I mean, it can go all the way till 31. That's 6.3 gigahertz on this. It's practically impossible. It's just a death wish on this thing. So we are at 3.3. I can go slightly higher. That goes 3.7, maybe up to 17x, shall we? 3.825. 3.825 is pretty stable as far as I've used this thing. So that's the AMD Opteron 1300, according to CPU-Z at least. Or as this motherboard likes to call it, an AMD engineering sample. Family F, Model 6, I'm gonna zoom in so you guys can see it more clearly, hopefully more clearly. running at 3.8 gigahertz, and the multiplier is times 17. Caches, we've got L1 and L2 caches of 1 megabytes. That's not a lot. Dual DDR3, 4 gigabytes of memory at 750 megahertz. 750 hertz, dang, that's slow. I wouldn't be able to hear that. Huh. 2 GB RAM slots on this thing, so. The GPU is a GT710 28nm GPU. The fun fact is, the GPU gets bottlenecked. Yeah, how about that? Now, most of the time, this setup is able to play quite a few games. You know what? Why did I close this? Let's open that back up. English, please. It's much faster now because even if I do open Task Manager, it just pops up instantly. Takes a second, but it does pop up, and we can see that here. Not show kernel times, change graphological CPUs. So this is a 2-core, 2-threaded CPU. Doesn't have hyper-threading, sadly. Wish it did. It says 2.8 here, but Task Manager doesn't update real time like CPU-Z does. So that's yeah. So let's go for CPU-Z benchmark. And let's see what the AMD engineering sample does. As you guys remember, previously the single core got us to, I don't know, 120, around there. Let's stress test this one and see how good this does. Well, that's a boost on its own, isn't it? Over 300 now. 314, 313. Still staying there. We'll open MSI Afterburner as we'll open MSI Afterburner as well. God, English really doesn't want to work today, does it? There's MSI Afterburner. For the GT710, this is a pretty stable overclock of mine. Plus 150 on the core clock and plus 450 on the mem clock. Let's apply that. Go to settings so I can show you guys my fan curve settings. This is my fan curve. It goes up to, it ramps up to 100% once it reaches around 69, nice, 70 Celsius. This being India, well, South India at least, the temperatures here average around 25 to 30. So it's pretty hot. And it's humid too, so that doesn't help. Stress test, it's gone down to 293. That's probably because I was doing some other stuff on this too. Yeah, the temps, I don't exactly know how hot this gets. I'd say around 65, 70 Celsius. Hopefully not more than that, because that ain't good. The GPU does get to 70 Celsius sometimes. 75. It hit 75 yesterday while I was playing some Beamng.Drive. Speaking of, we know this lands on around 300, so let's just stop that and close it and head over to some Beamng.Drive. I use my phone as a wheel for this thing, so I don't think I'll be able to drive much, but hey, at least we'll be able to see what it can do. I shall be back once it is in game. Well, we are in game, and the MSI Afterburner overlay is on this top left. That is probably Steam doing Steam things. So the GPU is currently at 48 Celsius, the CPU is at 0 Celsius. Do not believe that, because it doesn't know what it's talking about. Because when the dual core is enabled, the temperature goes way off. Sometimes it's on 180, as I said a few minutes ago. So we're hovering at around 50-60%. Beamng is, you guys might know, if you've heard of it at least, is a very CPU and GPU intensive game, because it's basically 1 car per core. So I'm probably not gonna use traffic or AIs or anything in this. CPU is I didn't put the CPU graphs on, so it's probably pegged at 3.8 as usual. GPU is at around 47 Celsius, the DirectX 11, so the frame rates are capped to 60. Here are my settings. Not the highest settings, not the lowest ones either, because GT 710, it's not strong. Most of it's at low. I've got no shadows at the moment because they take up a bit more GPU power. Set to free roam. I'll probably put a... You know what, let's go grid map. That's probably the one that'll always load whatever specifications your computer is. Loading takes a minute in this. Does freeze a few times because it's running off one terabyte hard drive. Yeah, it takes a while. And ignore the frame time. Yeah, that goes way over 1,000 milliseconds. CPU is not doing much. This is where 4 GB of RAM is an absolute pain. Like it gets pegged. 3.4 gigabyte. That's 85% of RAM right there, or even 90 maybe. CPU is not doing much, and well, goodness me, English, please work today, God. Adding 3D meshes. I'll play the video once it's loaded in. Well, this is Beamng.Drive. I've paused the inside game currently, so that's why it's hovering at 30 FPS. But I don't have the sound enabled, so bear with me on that. Don't have my speakers connected just yet. Yeah, 28 FPS on grid map ain't too bad. I shall set the controls to my mouse for the moment, and we'll see what happens. Now, I think I have some throttle. Yeah, we can at least move straight. Yeah, this is grid map for you. It runs on basically anything. Don't have left or right steering just yet, so bear with me. That's grid map. Let's see what else we can do. See how much we can push the CPU here. Since it is running at 3.8, it's at 90%. The GPU is what's bottlenecking it, which is overclocked. So you can see the clock speed has increased from 954 megahertz to a little over 1 gigahertz. And the clocks, oh my goodness, okie dokie, my sister had something on the laptop I was playing, and yikes. Well, and as you can see, the mem clock was around 2.2 gigahertz, I think. I don't know, it was slow before, that's all I have to say. So now it's almost running at 3 gigahertz. So that's a decent overclock for a 710, so you can do stuff like this. Time to yank this thing around. Yay. You know what? We'll actually switch to walk mode. See what we can do from there. Yeah, Beamng does have a walk mode. This guy's pretty tall. Dang. So we can walk around and do stuff like this. No sound feels weird. Honestly, no sound feels weird playing Beamng. Yeah, if I tried to do any of this with a single core mode on this CPU, if I did this with the same sempron, it would have been a stutterfest. I would probably be getting, I don't know, 5, 6 FPS, and that's a difference it makes. Let's break this door too, come on. D8. Well, that's enough fun. Let's also do something else. Just hit tab to get back in the car. And also, let's enable dynamic reflections. It's probably gonna take one heck of a hit. But let's see how good this GT710 can handle itself, shall we? Let's go. Dynamic reflections are on, and still around 27, 28 FPS. So this I usually use this for photos. Let's head backwards, why not? Yeah, it's not too bad. Gonna close the game now. See what else I can do. So this is basically what the dual core mods. This is yeah. What? Let's exit the game and be back once it hits desktop. Well, back in the desktop. Got nothing to say actually because it's running fine for the moment, and this CPU is, you've got multiple variants of the sempron. You've got like the FM1 socket versions and this is the AM3 socket motherboard, so yeah, it's a bit confusing here and there, but it works, so that's a good thing, I guess. Much better than the single core mode, so well, what? Oh my goodness, English, please. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like. If it was interesting, hit a like at least, because I think I was experimenting with an old PC and just pushing it as stupidly hard as it can go. And hit the subscribe button too, if you want to see more content like this. And once I get the Intel CPU, there will be a build video on this soon. TM. Thank you so much for watching.